You're watching Guitar 101 Rammstein, and this video is going to show you everything you need to know to play power chords and a few exercises to be able to move them around, use them comfortably, and play pretty much anything with power chords. Beyond moving the power chords, what gets really difficult is if you have to move them really fast or the picking hand has to do something insane. So like, look at some Metallica songs. But in general, for left-hand power chords are really easy. It's a great beginner chord, and they're extremely versatile. They're used all the time, especially on electric guitar, but they can be used on acoustic guitar. So I did this video a long time ago, so I decided to redo it because it's pretty outdated. Quality was not good. Anyway, it's going to go in a few steps. We're going to start off with how to hold a power chord, and we're just using a 2-string simple power chord right now. So let's go to fret 7 on our E string, on our top string, 6th string up. Index finger is going to go to fret 7, and on the A string, our ring finger is going to go to fret 9. And you're just going to hold those 2 strings with those 2 fingers. That's it. Don't learn it like this with the little finger. It's a bad habit. You can do it like that, but I wouldn't learn it that way because you're going to limit yourself to a lot of other chords that you can go to with a power chord or from a power chord. So hold it like that. If it's a hard reach for you, you just got to practice more, your dexterity. It shouldn't be that hard in this position. You can move it up to the 9th fret, so 9 to 11. 9 on E, 11 on A. If that's a little easier, and start working your way down. Eventually you want to be able to hold it anywhere on the guitar neck. That's the power chord shape. The only thing that's going to change is on the G and B strings, the 2nd and 3rd string up. So here you have to add another fret. All the other places, it's just one space of fret in between the finger. So wherever your index finger is, that's making the root note of the chord. That's what the chord will be called. Like this is, for example, an A. And we just go 1 string down, 2 frets up the neck, and there's your power chord. So if we're playing on the G and B, we got to add 1 more fret. So for example, G on the 7th fret, B on the 10th fret. B and D is back to that same shape. A lot of songs you're going to mostly find playing on your E, A, D, G strings. All right, so first just learn that shape. And then the next thing you might find is, okay, let's go to that 6th fret. So this is an A sharp. And it should sound like this, but you might be getting something that sounds more like this. We only want to play those 2 strings our fingers are on. And if you're really careful to not hit that 3rd string down or more, usually you're gonna hear that there's like this lack of confidence in the strumming, or you hear mistakes. So the next most important thing to learn when you're learning power chords is how to mute strings. Pretty easy though. Just takes a little bit of practice, you'll get the hang of it. Basically, it's all on my index finger. When I'm holding open chords and something, you always want to really arch your fingers, not touch the other strings. Otherwise, you block strings. In this case, we want to do that, but with this index finger. So it's going to lay flat across the strings, not pushing down. I don't want to hear notes. We want to get this sound. Muting. So I get my ring finger into position, so I'm on frets. In this case, I'm on fret 6 on E, 8 on A. And now what I'm going to do is that index finger is just resting across the strings, and it's just the fingertip pushing only the E string. And you see, I can strum all 6 strings, and you're just going to hear those 2 notes. All right, so it takes a little bit of practice, but it's not hard to do, and it's just a habit you want to pick up really fast for power chords so they don't sound like crap. Now, if we're rooting on the A string, so I'm holding, let's say, the 7th fret of A and the 9th fret of D. Now I'm surrounded by strings I don't want to hit. 7th fret you can get away with because there's that open E, it's an octave. It sounds kind of cool. So let's go to fret 8 and fret 8 and 10 on A and D. And now, if I hit that open E string, that sounds not so good. What I'm going to do in this case is same thing with this index finger to mute those strings below. The string above, that E string, I use my fingertip, and it just butts against the side of this E string on the inside of it and holds that quiet. So that's how you get around that scenario. Okay, so next we want to learn how to move a power chord so we're not losing tempo and we're able to shift it around. So here's the first step of the exercise. I put this into two parts for my students that are just learning power chords. We're going to pick two spots on the E string. If it's hard for you, you can move this up higher. Sometimes if your fingers aren't learning to stretch yet, the power chord's going to be harder to play up here. Whereas maybe at the 5th or 7th fret, it's going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to start out at a real easy, kind of medium, easy position. If it's too hard, just move it up a bit. So I'm going to pick fret. I'm looking always, when I'm playing power chords, I'm always focusing on my index finger because that's the root note. So let's go to fret 7. That means fret 9 of the A string for the ring finger. And we're going to play two positions here. And then I'm going to move everything 1, 2, 3 frets over. So that's fret 10 and 12. So I got two power chords. Nice easy distance. Now we're just going to strum 4 times on each chord and get used to moving them back and forth. Try to do it in rhythm. And what we're trying to go for is like a snap into that next position. Not like, we want to really like snap into it. Practice it slower at first, of course. Something at your own pace that where you can get it on time. That's the most important thing, not playing it fast. All right. Once that you get the hang of that, try a bigger distance. Maybe like fret 3 to, let's say 7. Push your limits, 1 to 9. That makes it harder, of course, but you'll kind of, sometimes when you practice that way, you'll get more out of the time you're putting into it. Also practice moving like in steps and half steps, like a chromatic sequence. All right, so that's kind of our linear movement where we're going side to side with power chords. There's already a lot of crap you can play like that. Power chords are just, they're really common chords, especially on electric guitar. When we look at rock music, different styles of music, they can be used on acoustic too, so don't get me wrong on that. Next, we want to learn how to do string changing. So I'm going to take that same shape. What was it? I said 7 to 10. And I'm going to play the same thing like 4 times, shift, and then we're going to work on a string change. So everything just drops down 1 string to the A and D strings on the same frets of that 2nd fret. So that's fret 10 and 12 on A and D. And then back down. So I'm making like this rectangle shape on the fretboard. So on the A and D string to 7 and 9. And then straight back up to the start. 7 and 9 on the E string, E and A string. Alright, and again, give it a strum pattern if you want, or just strum 4 times on each chord and just try to get that timing in place. Put on a metronome, that will help you a lot. Don't speed it up like I was doing like that. Practice it at a consistent rate and try to just get it to where you can play it perfect and then speed it up. Finally, one more thing for moving, for transitioning side to side, we'll start with, is you don't want to let go of the strings and move. Sometimes I'll do that if I want to avoid string noise, especially on like a thicker gauge on an acoustic or something, if the mic's picking it up real bad. But what I normally will do is I just release the pressure on my fingertips. So I'm still in contact with the strings, and I'm just kind of gliding down to where I'm moving to and then clamping back down. That's going to make it a lot easier, because if you let go of the strings, it's going to be noisy for one. You'll hear like that, and it's making it harder to do. Now when we're changing string to string, if it's on the same fret, I'm not going to, same thing, I'm not going to lift my fingers and move them. I'm kind of just rolling my fingers down to the next string, rolling them back up. It's like, find the quickest way from point A to point B. That's what we call economy of motion in music, in playing instruments, and it's very important. Something you'll always work on. You'll always try to improve. You'll never master it. So you're always trying to do like the easiest way, the laziest way, whatever. And if I got to move string to string and not on the same fret, I'm kind of doing the same thing with both those methods of like not letting really go of the strings and clamping back down, and also kind of rolling to the next string. All right, so that's really all there is to it. The other thing that really goes hand in hand with power chords is learning how to palm mute. So I'll throw that in on this video real quick. Palm muting, it's all in this part of the hand, and it's going to rest on the very end of the strings where they meet the bridge, where they meet the saddles. So you want this kind of sound as opposed to this open. I mean, you want that if you're trying to palm mute. If you don't have to push hard, especially if you use like a floating bridge or a Floyd Rose, you're gonna hear your guitar going out of tune because you're too heavy-handed. So don't get in the habit of pushing too hard, even if it's a fixed bridge. If you're too far this way towards your fretboard, you're gonna kill the note. And you see, like, as I move slowly back towards the bridge, I start hearing more and more of the note. It's less choked out. So you're kind of finding that sweet spot. And once you can, that's the next kind of step. Use this exercise, this rectangle shape. Try it with palm muting. Try going in and out of palm muting too. So like I always show people to count in fours. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and for example, we're gonna palm mute 1, 2, and 3, and open it out on 4. And try all the combinations of those 4 numbers. Open it on 1, palm mute 2, 3, and 4. Or let's open on 2. Open on 3. They all feel a little different, so try them all out. And really that's it. I mean, power chords are a very useful chord. You can play a lot of stuff. Once you learn these kind of movements with them, the only thing I'm really missing is an open power chord where we're just open string in the 2nd fret of the A string or whatever string's below it. Sometimes I'll hold it with my middle finger if I know I'm going to that 1st fret. Or if I'm going anywhere past the 1st fret, I'll use my index finger normally. Alright, so that's really all there is to power chords. They're a simple chord, very effective, very useful. Once you learn these movements, most songs using power chords are going to be pretty easy. What can make them tough is these like big movements that are quick, or a lot of it's really just the picking hand. There's Metallica songs that are just power chords, but they're not that easy because the picking hand is doing a lot of work. But there's tons of really, really easy songs that are just power chords, but they're very effective chords. Technically, they're called a fifth. Power chords, kind of the slang form, common name for them. They're called fifth because we're taking the 1st and 5th note from the major scale. So it's that 1st and 5th note. Funny thing is, I learned how to tune a guitar with power chords because I learned one of the first riffs was like a riff from Metallica, the beginning of One, and I knew how it was supposed to sound, and I realized I could do it on different strings, except G and B. I had to add that extra fret. So I just keep tuning my strings till that riff from One sounded correct on all of them. That's it's actually learning to tune with intervals, but I didn't know anything about that when I was first starting out. It just worked. So it's easy kind of interval to remember as well. That's it. Thanks for watching. And like I said in my last video, I'm going to be redoing some of these older videos that are pretty outdated, especially the ones that got a lot of good feedback. I'll keep the old ones up, and I'll just put in the description that there's an updated version for now. I might just get rid of those eventually. And if you go through some of my older videos where it could use some improvement in the quality, just leave a comment on it, and I'll try to get to it for you guys. Thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and feel free to leave anything in the comments that I can get back to if you have any questions or comments. Till next time.